Hello there, and welcome to Kab Python Series. My name is Simon, and we are going to continue with our Kab Python series. This is episode 9. So, on our script today, we shall be looking at the break statement. We shall also look at the continue statement, and we shall also look at nested loops. All these are very important concepts that you need to equip yourself with when you're dealing with loops. And you find out that they are not only good in programming with Python, but all the other programming languages use these concepts. So when you grasp them at this level, then you will apply them in all other programming languages. So let's begin with the break statement. So the break statement is used to terminate the current loop prematurely. Yeah, it is used to terminate the current loop prematurely. We're going to see how it works. Once the break is encountered, the loop stops executing and control is transferred to the code immediately after the loop. Okay, so this is the syntax for I in range that if I equals to 5, break. So we are going to see this practically, how it works before we can go further. So let's first see how it works for the case of the for loop. Let's say we have a loop. Okay, we first clear up here, zoom in a bit. Okay, my machine is a bit slow this morning, but we shall continue regardless. So we want to test how the break statement works for the case of the for loop. We have said that when the break statement is encountered, it will break the loop prematurely and it will execute the code exactly or immediately after the loop or where the loop stops. So let's say we have the code running like this for I in range. For I in range, we want this loop to begin from 1, run up to 10, and then we are implementing it by 1. So on the next line, we say print I, save this, and run it. Yeah, so this is what we are getting. Let me print them on the same line. Use n. Then here, let me separate them with a comma. Okay, there we are. We are printing from 1 up to 10 like we wanted. So what will happen if we use a break statement somewhere? So to use a break statement, we will set a condition which shall guide how the break statement will be applied in this loop. For example, maybe I want this loop to break when it encounters, when it reaches an iteration where I equals to 5. Let's say if I is equal to 5, break, save, and run. So you've seen we've stopped at 4 and we've not executed further. Yet this loop is supposed to go up to 10, like you saw here. But because we have defined the condition here, we said that whenever you reach the point or on an iteration when I equals to 5, just break. This means just get out of the loop. Stop executing from there. Do not continue further. That's what the break statement does. So it will not print anything in this loop past when the iteration is 5. And there was something we said here that the control is transferred to the code immediately following the loop. So you can even put some code following the loop here. Can put something here and say print end of program. End of program. So you can see it is printing end of program here. Maybe what we can do, okay, let's try to do this. Yeah, so we have put an empty print here, which has helped us to break a line that we have end of the line being on a different line. By default, this print function always has a break line argument inside it. That's why it always breaks a line. Here we try to stop that by having the comma. We shall dive much into that when we are handling functions. But just know that when you print nothing and you put nothing inside print, it will break the line or it will push the content to the next line. So that is how the break statement works for the case of the for loop. So before looking at the continue statement, let's see how it works for the case of while loops. Let me comment out that. So, okay. So our normal while loop would run like this. Remember, while loop, we begin by initializing a value where we want our loop to begin from. So let me say I equals to 1. That's where I want to begin from. Then while I is less than or equals to 10, what do I want to do? I want to print I. After printing I want to increment it so that I can go to the next iteration. So still let me put here this argument. So there we go. So we want to try and use a break statement here, still like we did for the for loop. I want to put a break statement that whenever we reach 5, the loop stops there and does not continue further. So what we'll do is we will say if I is equal to 5, if I is equal to 5, what should you do? Just break. Just break. Do not execute anything beyond that. Okay, so we are having, yeah, there we are having, it is printing from 1 up to 4 and it is stopping there. So that is how that works. We've seen how the break keyword works, the break statement works for the for loop, and we have also seen how it works for the while loop. Yeah, you can also even have, you can also have something or some block of code after the loop. Maybe you want it to print end of program. Just to more emphasize the point where we said when it meets the break statement, it terminates the loop and executes the code immediately after the loop. So here after breaking at 4, after breaking when I equals to 4 or I equals to 5, after breaking from there, remember, it won't even print this 5 because it will break here. It will just, from where there is word break, it will jump and get out of the loop, come and execute this statement, print, then also execute this, where we are saying end of program. Okay, so that's how the break statement works. The continue statement is used to skip the current iteration of the loop and jump to the next iteration. the loop does not terminate, but continues with the next cycle. Okay, so let's see how the continue statement works. Let me comment out this. We no longer need it. Comment. So let's see how the continue statement works. We have our same loop for I in range, for I in range. I want it to print from 1 to 10. Then print I. 7 run, Control Alt N. We are having that on the same line. Okay, so we are having that. So I want to use the continue statement. We have said that the continue statement is used to skip the current iteration of the loop and jump to the next iteration. So unlike the break statement, for the case of the break statement, when you meet break statement, it means break or get out of the loop. But continue means ignore the current iteration or skip the current iteration and jump to the next iteration. Let's see how that works. So I will say if, let's still use the same example of I being equal to 5. If I equals to 5, what should you do? Continue. If I equals to 5, we are saying continue. On saving and running, I hope you can see here, 5 is not printed. We just printed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is not there, we have 6. So we have told the compiler that when you're iterating, the moment you find out that I is equal to 5, you skip that iteration. Don't do anything with that iteration. Continue to the next iteration, which is 6. So when the loop reaches when I equals to 5, instead of proceeding to print that I, which is 5, it will just skip it and go to the next iteration, which is I equals to 6. So when it finds out that I equals to 5, you'll come here and increment it to go to the iteration when I equals to 6, and that's how 6 will be printed, and the loop will continue. So guys, I want you to get the difference between this and break. If this was break, let me put break here and you see. Break. So I hope you've seen, for the case of break, you stop there and get out of the loop. You don't print anything or terminate or execute anything that is within the loop. But for the case of continue, you just skip that iteration which is satisfying this condition. You just skip the iteration when I is 5. Then the next iteration, you continue with it. Yeah, there we go. We can even try to change this to 4. You're seeing here now 4 is not printed. We can even skip something else. If I is equals to 8, still continue. So you've seen here, we've not, even 8 is not printed here because we have included this in our code here that if I equals to 4, skip that iteration. Then again, if I equals to 8, still skip that iteration. So we can even decide to use it like this. If I is greater than or equal to 8. You can see now it has stopped at 7 because we have said that if you find out that I is greater than 8 or it is equal to 8, you skip that iteration. That's why all the iterations from 8 up to 10, they have been skipped and they are not printed here. So guys, that's how the break and continue statements work. Let's try it for the while loop. I'd actually forgotten. Let's try it out for the while loop. So while loop, we said we begin by initializing a value. Let's say I equals to 0. And then we want this loop to run so long as I is less than or equal to 10. We want it to print I. We want it to print I. Okay. And equals to that. After printing that, you increment I with 1. Increment I with 1. And there we go. We have our stuff printing there. We have printed from 0 up to 10 as the loop shows here. Now we want to use the continue statement here. We want this loop to skip 5 and it does not print 5. It prints the rest of this, but does not print 5. So what we do, we come here and define that condition. We say if you find out that I is equals to 5, please just continue. Do not print it. That's what we are telling it. Okay. Okay, what do we have here? It is printing from 0, 2, 3, 4. So you realize here that when it reaches 4, fine, it does not print 5. But then it is still executing like we run into an infinite loop. We expected it to print. We expected it to print the rest of the loop from it should only skip 5, but then it should have 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. But we are seeing that it is not printing those other values which we have not defined in our condition here. And it is an infinite loop because you see it is not stopping. So how can we solve this? Let's try to solve this. So when you look at this, we've said that if I equals to 5, if I equals to 5, you just continue. Do not execute when I equals to 5. So the reason why it is doing this, we are not meeting the part where we are supposed to increment. So we are supposed to do some incrementing even inside here. Oh, we have it running. Okay, let's wait a bit. Okay. Okay, so let's run this again. And just, yeah, so now it is running, it is working. We are having 5 being skipped here. So the other first time it refused to run because we had told it that if you find out that I equals to 5, just skip that iteration. But we did not define how to move to the next iteration. That's why we were just stopping at 4 and we were just continuing with an infinite loop and not, because for it, it means that when you find out that I equals to 5, skip the current iteration for the loop. So it will skip printing this and it will also skip printing this, also skip executing this, which means I will not be incremented That's why when we have incremented it here inside the loop, we are seeing it is continuing well. Let me first remove this for now, and I emphasize this point. Save and run. So at this level, the loop is running indefinitely. It is running. It is an infinite loop because it is still running. It has not stopped. Why is this happening? We said that if I equals to 5, skip that iteration when I equals to 5. Skipping that iteration means you skip that iteration. It means you don't, this is not printed, and then there is no incrementing also. That's what skipping that iteration, because for each iteration, all these lines of code have to run. But then if you skip it from here, which means everything down here will not be considered. That's why we had to solve that by having incrementing inside this condition also. So that if the loop reaches a time when it has to skip the iteration for I equals to 5, it still continues to the next iteration instead of running into an infinite loop like this. But then if it does not run into, it does not meet the continue statement, still I will be incremented from out here. I hope this point is well. If at all it is not well, you can leave a comment in our comment section, or you put your issue in WhatsApp in our WhatsApp group, and I will give you more explanation for this part. But I just hope it is clear up to here. So let me first stop this from running and then run it again. Okay, so it is running, although it is trying to take some bit of time. You can be continuing. So that's how the continue statement works, guys. Just skips the current iteration for that. Okay, just skips the current iteration and it jumps to the next iteration. Then the break for it, when it is met, you just get out of the whole loop. So it is here we have done, it has skipped 5. Can even change and we say we want it to skip 8 this time. Yeah, there we go. 8 has been skipped. So that is it with the continue keyword. Moving on, let's look at what we call nested loops. A nested loop is a loop inside another loop. Remember the other time we looked at nested if statements, where we have if inside another if. So here we are having a loop inside another loop. That's what we call a nested loop. This means that for every iteration of the outer loop, the entire inner loop executes. We shall jump into that and you see how they work. The outer loop starts its first iteration. The inner loop runs completely, all its iterations for each iteration of the outer loop. Once the inner loop finishes, the control goes back to the outer loop for the next iteration. Okay, this might seem like German, but let's first do it practically to grasp this. This code is dirty. I want to just open another file. Let me just create a new file. I can call it what? What can I call it? Nested.py. Is that where I want to store? Okay, let's keep it there. Okay. So we want to see how the nested loops work. Nested loops. So we will say for I in range, for I in range, for I in range 5, this will mean it will run from 0 up to 5, or from 0 up to 4. We want to print I. So this is basic. This is basic. It will just print for you 0 up to 4. Wait, is it the one printing only 1? Why? Hey, I put 1 instead of I here. Okay, so there we go. So we've just printed from 0 up to 3, but you want to, instead of just printing here, we want to put now another loop. So we'll say for j in range, for j in range 4, print, what do we want to print? We want to print, what do we want to print? We want to print I equals to interpolation I, and then j equals to what? J equals to interpolation j. I hope you're understanding whatever I'm doing here. Then after that, okay, let me first run it like this. Okay, let me put this argument here. This time I want it to be separated by white space. Okay, this is not so nice. N equals to, okay, let's first leave it there. Then, okay, then we can have, okay, I hope this will bring out what we want. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So let's try to analyze what is happening here. We have said that for I in range 5, which means the outer loop is executing from 0 up to 4. So whenever I is in that range, so it will begin from 0. For the outer loop, we will begin from 0 as our first iteration. And when I equals to 0, you run this for loop inside here. So when I equals to 0 for the outer loop, this loop inside will run to completion before moving on to I equals to 1 for the outer loop. I hope this one is clear. Let me repeat it. When I equals to 0, we will jump inside this loop and run the entire part of this loop, which are these two lines, until this inner loop is done executing before moving on to I equals to 1. What does that mean? For the beginning, I will be equals to 0, like you see here. Then it will enter here and also start this loop. For j in range that, so even j will begin from 0. So what will it do here? It will print I equals to 0 because we are still at 0, and then print j equals to 0. Then we'll continue to the next iteration for the part of j. So j will move to the next value, 1, but I is still 0. That's what we are having here. We're having I equals to 0, j equals to 0. I equals to 0, j equals to 1. I equals to 0, j equals to 2. I equals to 0, j equals to 3. So it means that this, for each iteration of this outer loop, or for each value, like you're seeing is 0, 0 will be assigned or will be executed alongside all the possible iterations for the inner loop until we reach the last value before moving on to the next value for the outer loop. So we're saying here even the next line, we're saying I equals to 1, then we execute j equals to 0. I equals to 1, we execute j equals to 1. I equals to 1, j equals to 2. I equals to 1, j equals to 3. So that is how it runs. Just know that for each value of the outer loop or for each iteration of the outer loop, the inner loop runs up to completion before moving to the next value for the outer loop. I hope I'm not confusing you here. I hope you're getting this. I hope you're getting this. Okay. So that is how the nested loops work. Once the inner loop finishes, the control goes back to the outer loop for its next iteration. Guys, if this is not clear, you can always post a comment in our comment section or ask a question in our WhatsApp group for further clarification. Or you can even come personally. Last weekend, one of you guys came. He had some confusion somewhere, and we helped him physically. So you can always come in. Some of these things, because we don't have a chance to simulate some things here, some concepts are better explained to you when you reach out physically. So when you reach out physically, I can try to help you grasp this even better, just in case you have not gotten this concept here. But I just hope everyone is on the same is moving at the same pace with us here, and this is okay at this level. Okay. Okay, so that is the syntax. So the key points are the inner loop runs completely for each iteration of the outer loop. You can have as many nested loops as you need, but more loops can make your program slower and more complex. Nested loops are useful when working with data structures like matrices or grids, or needing to perform repeated tasks within other repeated tasks. So that's what you should note about nested loops. They are very crucial when dealing with repetitive tasks, but then you should, for every chance you get, you try to avoid them because they make the program slow down. They are not very good. So this is your take home for today. Write a Python program that prints all the even numbers between 1 and 20. Use the continue statement to skip all the odd numbers. So guys, we are using the continue statement here. Use the continue statement to write a program that prints even numbers between 1 and 20. Next, write a Python program that asks the user to input numbers. Then the program should keep adding the numbers until the user enters a negative number. When the negative number is entered, the loop should break, and the program should print the total of the numbers entered. So this one, you'll be using the break statement to achieve it. Then here, okay, that's your sample result. Enter a number, you enter 5, enter a number, you enter 3, enter a number, you enter 7, enter a number. The moment you enter -1, it breaks and just gives you the total of what you've been entering. Lastly, but not the least, you are going to write a Python program that generates a multiplication table based on the user input. So you read through this. This is like the steps you are going to follow to come up with that multiplication table. Remember the take home we had last week, we were printing only the multiplication table for only one value. But now here, we want you to print a multiplication table for a number of, for all the values, not for only one. Okay. Okay, so that is it for now. This has been episode 8. I have been your tutor for today. My name is Simon, and these are the Kab Python series. We meet again this Wednesday. This Wednesday, we shall have episode 10, but still, we are going to be having the info session for GDG on campus. So you come around to see how the GDG on campus community works. It's a very good community you would want to be part of. So just make sure you do not miss out. Although still we shall have episode 10, as usual. If you've not subscribed yet, please kindly subscribe to keep updated whenever we upload new materials. And for now, that is it from me. I'm out.